This conference will now be recorded.
All right. It looks like Elizabeth is on here twice, but I have not heard from her.
She's probably having tech issues. Give her a second.
Hey,
Okay, I
there's
have a voice now.
Yay!
Yeah.
I don't know why I have
Hi.
two of them.
Oh,
There we go.
She's here, she's gone. We almost had you, Elizabeth. You have to make your, you have to open your mic,
My mic?
which was open. You have to open your microphone. And do you see how to do that? There should be a little microphone icon that you will turn on, and then we will see you. Or maybe, I don't even see. Are you with us, Elizabeth? Can you talk to us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Perfect. Okay. It just doesn't show up. All right, guys. This is the MS meeting and the MS virtual group meeting, and I'm going to turn it over to the MS moderator. So go for it.
So welcome, and this is we talked about now, because I think there's several new people here tonight. I mean, just to get you and Mike's on the phone. I mean, we can go around quick just to introduce ourselves before we start spilling everything about us, right? Is that what you're comfortable about? But thanks for coming to the group. I'm Dan Digman. This is my wife, Jennifer, and there's Carly, and we are the co-facilitators of this meeting. I've had MS for 20 years, and I'm on Betaseron. Go.
And I've been diagnosed since 97, so going on 23 years. And I take Rituxan, and I met Dan after I was diagnosed. So, and
I met her after I was diagnosed. So there.
So there. So Carly.
Carly, you're up.
hi. So I was diagnosed in 2011, and I went through a couple of different ones, but I actually got into the Ocrevus clinical trial very early on, and am still in it.
Wow. And so Kim, you were, I mean, because we heard a little bit from you, so let Elizabeth know, and Mike as well.
Okay, I was diagnosed in 2012. I started on Rebif, and I switched to Gilenya for 5 years, and they switched me last year to Ocrevus because I had can't even think, optic neuritis, and I went completely blind in my left eye temporarily, so they decided to switch me. Any other questions you want me to answer? From Des Moines, Iowa.
Yeah, that's right. You're Des Moines. We're Mount Pleasant, Michigan.
Where are you from, Carly?
I am from Grosse Pointe, but I'm actually in Plymouth tonight.
Is that Minnesota or different? What state is that?
No, Michigan. Sorry.
Okay, you're also Michigan. Okay.
Yep.
Elizabeth, because you're here, tell us about you.
I was diagnosed May 21st of 2019, so very early.
Oh, that's really recent.
Yeah, it was, or it is.
Yeah.
I was at first diagnosed with primary progressive, but I went through some more testing through another neurologist, and she re-diagnosed me with relapse remitting. So it's not as bad. It's still MS, but it's not as bad.
Mm-hmm.
So just taking it one day at a time.
Absolutely. And where are you from, Elizabeth?
I am from Ithaca, Michigan.
Yes.
Oh, we got a Michigan crowd here. Awesome.
Well, wait.
I don't know where Ithaca is, though.
Tell us about you, Mike.
If Mike is.
I was diagnosed in '98. I was on the Biogen drug. What's that called?
Avenex.
Avenex. Yeah, and it didn't work. I was like injecting water. I also had optic neuritis as a result of that. My eyesight, my right eye, did not come back, and I switched to Copaxone, and I've been pretty good since. I had a relapse about 2-3 years ago, and my right leg doesn't work as well as my left. Other than that, I'm doing great.
Excellent.
And I heard some people talking about other drugs. I would like to about some of anybody. There's so many of them now. 10 or 15.
I think
MS
our neurologist
drugs.
told us 18. There's 18.
Wow.
Yeah, list keeps growing, and I wonder what the attraction is to some of the new drugs.
I am taking Lemtrada.
Okay.
Lemtrada.
What is it called?
Yeah, you know.
Zentrada?
Lemtrada.
And is that an oral?
That's infusion.
It is infusion. Okay.
How often is it?
The first time I had to go in October for 5 days, so 5 rounds right there in a row. And now I don't go until this October, and that's only for 3 days in a row. So, and then that should be the last of what my neurologist told me that I could possibly need.
Is it relapsing remitting or progressive MS?
Yes. Relapse remitting.
Really? That's
Yes.
Yeah, that's the chemo drug that they use it for leukemia. That was pulled off the market for a while, and then they brought it back for MS.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, because there are, like you said, 18. And I think, they just keep adding new ones. And I think that's, we just did a live chat, and it just seems like more and more, so many people are on the Ocrevus. And I think just because that's for people with progressive and relapsing remitting. And so that's worked well for you, right, Carly?
Yeah. I was going to ask him how. I went through Avenex and Copaxone. I think we've talked about in some of our earlier meetings, but neither worked for me. And when I got diagnosed, I was numb from about brow line down, and everything hurt touching me. I was using a walker in the hospital, and I'm back to running. I actually signed up for a half marathon this year. So
That is so awesome to hear, Carly. Yeah. I'm so excited for you.
Yeah.
You go, girl. High five all the way.
You don't play, Carly. I was thinking to do like a 5K. It's like, no, dude. Have you ever done a half before?
I have not. I've done several 5Ks and a 10K, but this one's a big one. But I'm doing the FREEP, so the international half downtown. So I think it'll be fun. I can walk it if I need to. I don't have to run.
Well, is that like in not till the fall, right?
Yeah, October.
At least you had plenty of time to train.
Plenty.
Yeah,
I'm not running outside right now though.
Carly, just a quick word from an ex-marathoner. I ran 9. As a rough rule of thumb, you can run 3 times your average distance. So if 13 is what you're going to run, you need to be running about an average of about 4 to 5 a day for, say, 6 to 8 weeks beforehand.
Okay. That's manageable.
Okay?
That's manageable. All right, I'll take it.
Wow.
To answer your question, Carly, about my experience with Ocrevus. So I started, my first starter dose was February last year. My first maintenance dose was August. So I will get it again Valentine's Day this year. So A year ago, I was doing pretty well. I was starting to train for the MS 150 bike ride. I have to use an electric bike. I cannot use a normal bike. And I was training for that. I was starting to go to spin classes a couple times a week and things like that. And if I get emotional, I apologize here. But since August and September, my fatigue has really just gone off the cliff. Before, I would lay down and then you get some kind of relief and like, okay, I got some energy, I can go do something. Now, nothing. Nothing abates the fatigue anymore. And an extreme example of this is I went to Chicago, a 5-hour car ride. I did not drive. And going to Chicago, spending the night, next morning, lay down until we watch my nephew play. Afterwards, lay down. We leave the next day, 5 hours in the car. I lay down part way home because I'm so tired, and it took me over 3 days of laying down before I was enough to do something. And that's just like what I've been dealing with lately. I do see my neurologist this Thursday, so we'll be talking, but I was like trying to come up with excuses like, well, you had a lot of death this summer, you're sad, or, holidays this fall. And I'm like, January, it's like, it's not getting better. What is going on here? That's my two crippling symptoms I have is the cognition and the fatigue. I have to lay down, like sitting for long periods of time is very, very draining for me.
Yeah.
Right now I'm like I'm sitting reclined.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to remember early on because I started the study in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a really great experience with the first 2 half doses, so I got shingles with the first half dose, and then they had to wait a while. Thankfully, it never blistered, so it wasn't like super bad. And honestly, like long-term results, I feel a lot better with it.
Mm-hmm.
Had a lot more UTIs. I think that's probably, I noticed that a lot. One of the things that I have started doing because I'm still working full time right now. I'm really fortunate that I can still work full time. But I take Ritalin Monday through Friday just to help me even focus.
Yeah. I've taken Provigil in the past, and then they were going to start me on Navigil last year, but my insurance wouldn't pay for it. And it's like over $600 for 30 days. Like I can't. So I just started. I got Navigil like a week ago, but like the first dose I took of it, I was awake all night. I didn't go to bed, and I've done a half dose. And Friday I could sleep, but it took me a long time to fall asleep. So I'm still playing with it, and my body feels like it's ramped up. So because it's stimulant.
Yeah.
So like my brain's like, oh, you're having anxiety because your body's racing. It's like, no, I'm not having anxiety. It's just a drug. So I'm trying to weigh like the pros and cons. Is this actually giving me? Is this actually helping with my energy levels? Am I going to handle the side effects? If the side effects are worth it?
Yeah.
And it's just so strange. Where I just like I did well, and then I just went, phew, and then I'm like, oh, I should recover. And it's like I'm not recovering. It's so weird.
Yeah. I'd be curious to hear what your neurologist says. I mean, I know that I'm tired, but I think I've excused it away enough because I'm upright and mobile, and I can justify it in my head that way. But I'd be curious what your neurologist says.
Yeah, because before it'd be like I love to go to these yoga classes and Tai Chi. I was very active with the YMCA, and it's like I don't even have the energy to drive there. And especially anything in the evening, I have to go anywhere. It's like forget about it. I can't go unless someone drives me. It just blows my mind. Like you think like, okay, I got this. I got it figured out, and then you get like another curveball, and you're like, what is going on? Anyway, I don't want to dominate the entire time.
Yeah.
No, because I mean, it's all real because you think you've got it figured out, and then just like boom, something new happened, or like you say, Carl, it's like you explain stuff away, or you're just like, oh, I was tired, or we did this, and now you're just like, when you get to that point, you can't explain it away, and the coffee doesn't help anymore. So
Yeah.
The best analogy I've come up with it is like the hot and cold water faucet on your sink. One you have complete control over, and the other one you have zero control. So So depending on how much that one that you don't have control on, you know, what you're doing may or may not have a big effect on what's going on. So
Yeah.
I like
I
that.
used to be able to ride a bike to go,
mhm.
but up until it was like 2 or 3 years ago, my husband and my daughter and I rode our bikes to the gas station, so like 2 blocks away, to
Mhm.
put air in our tires, and we got our air, and then we rode our bikes a block down to the ice cream shop, and thank God there was grass there where I stopped. I stopped my bike, and I could not remember how to get off my bike, so I just tipped over. And
Oh,
my
wow.
husband and my
How
daughter turned
scary.
around. I know, my husband and my daughter were like, "What are you doing?" I was just laying there laughing my butt off. I'm like, and they're like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I'm fine. I'm fine. And
That's scary. Have
couple,
you gotten have you gotten on a bike since?
I was in the back of the garage still.
You know, an electric bike was a total game changer for me because I had huge issues with my energy level. A, am I going to be able to get back home? B, if I hit any type of hill, that would just totally, I'm done. And C, to be able to keep up with people, you know. So that was huge for me. It like totally leveled out the playing field. So now, in theory, if my bike has like 5 levels of help assist. If I go to level 5, I can barely pedal, and boom, I'm going 20 miles an hour, so I can catch up with you.
And I bet does that challenge your balance, or does it pretty much stay up on its own?
I have, thankfully, that's one area that I really haven't had an issue with my balance. I was a dancer like in high school, so on a good day, I will outbalance a normal person. But that has changed somewhat this fall where I'll be like, whoa, and I have to grab a wall while I'm walking or something, but I haven't fallen yet. But that thankfully, that's one thing I have not, that and pain. I have not had to deal with that, the pain issue that so many people deal with.
Yeah, I've had to deal with some pain, and I just emailed my neurologist and said, okay, the tremors have, gotten taken care of with baclofen. And
Hmm.
so I said, now I just need something for my pain because it's just not going away. And so she just emailed me back and said, okay, I'm going to prescribe you with 50 milligrams of tramadol. Like, okay. So I started taking that, but I was just doing like half a pill because I've never taken that before, and I know it's an
Hmm.
opiate, so it scared me.
It, it's
So, but
it's
just like a half
technically
a
not an
pill,
opiate, but yeah, it is
I
kind of,
know.
yeah,
It,
yeah.
I think
Gray
just
area.
2 years ago, like a year, 2 years ago, it just became an opiate. I know that. So, but
It,
yeah, I can split the pills in half real quick. So
Hmm. Has it helped?
yes, it has.
Okay, good. So you're getting relief on 25 milligrams then if you're doing half a pill?
Yes.
Awesome. So glad to hear that.
Has anyone heard of Embra? It's a pill for helping you walk faster and for balance and so on.
Hmm.
I've been on about a year, and I get the generic version. It's called Del sulfamphridine, sulfamphridine, and it's a lot cheaper than Empira, I guess. And I used to fall quite often, and I have not fallen in 9 months. So I consider that a success.
Absolutely.
so it is helping you, Mike.
Yeah, but I believe so. It could be the placebo effect, but in any case, it's working.
I didn't know that Ampera went generic because that's a fairly newish
Yeah,
kind of drug on the grand scheme of things. That's
yeah, I
interesting.
thought so too. But leave it to Express Scripts to find a cheaper alternative.
Which
It's
is
generic is spelled DALFAMPRIDINE. 10
Yeah.
milligram tablets.
that's good.
I take 2 a day. It's about 5,000 a year or something like that. But again, it's covered for me.
That's not,
Go ahead.
no.
Has anyone had frustrations with the cost of everything?
Yes.
I was totally blown away when I saw the sticker price of Ocrevus infusion. Because I was like, okay, it's 63,000 because that was my initial dose. And when I found the minus was like 124,000, I'm like, you're telling me it costs $250,000 sticker price for my drug that doesn't cure me?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
I was,
Lemtrada, I think is 157,000.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
it's expensive.
oh my God.
I
And then,
Hey, Frank.
Hey,
I'm driving cheap lane.
how you doing?
good. How are you?
Well, I finally got on. Been one
I'm
of
glad
those,
you did it.
been one of those days, you know.
Yeah.
Little snow, girlfriend had a cataract removed, you know.
You
Wow.
did?
No, it's
Oh,
girlfriend.
okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about the astronomical prices of MS medications, Frank. So you can relate to that.
Yes, I can.
Yes. I mean, when I was diagnosed like 20 years ago, and like at that point in time, I had good insurance and I had to pay like, 10% copay every month. And with the beta serin, it was like $120 a month just for 10% copay. But then after 9 months, I had exceeded like my limit for what my insurance would want to cover. And so then my copay went up to 30% for like 3 months out of the year. I'm paying $500 out of pocket just for, the shots. And now it's just like, I think beta serin has gone up. Well, what are they saying? Like 900% or something. It just, and nothing's changed about the drug as far, I mean, it's the same drug that I took in 2000 as today. It's the same medicine. And I think that's where we, like you said, Kim, it's like it's not curing us. It's almost like we take a gamble because, people say, because we'll still have irritations, exacerbations, whatever. And the saving grace, or what they'll say, is like, well, just think if you weren't on the medicine, how bad it would be. But it's just like, but look at how much money we're spending just for this medication. So,
or just dealing with the side effects of them,
Mm-hmm.
well,
Can I be
that's
a cynic? Can I be a cynic for a minute?
please.
Absolutely.
Just imagine how much it would cost the drug companies to find a cure for MS.
Well, there is an argument out there that it is, how do I word this? It is in their best interest to not cure. It is
Right.
best interest just to help to make you a chronic user. There is a lot of talk
The,
about that.
the old marketing strategy is the best revenue is reoccurring revenue.
Exactly. Exactly.
And on that topic, it's just like there's no cure for cancer either. And they still keep funding all these research and stuff like that, and there's billions of dollars being funded, stuff like that, and there's still no cure.
I think in
But then
some
People would
cancers,
lose their job. There was a cure for cancer. All the researchers and foundations and people like Rick, maybe, who would no longer be necessary. So there's a strong argument that they're trying to cure, trying to milk it. I don't know how it works.
I would lean a little more with Frank on this one. No disrespect, Mike, but I think they make a lot of money from us staying sick.
and then
Exactly.
not to get too political or crazy or anything, but the patient assistance programs that were like, oh my God, thank you, I have a patient assistance program, is just a way for the companies to get a tax break because, hey, we're helping people pay for this drug that we make this really crazy price. So they kind of make it both ways. They get it from you when they charge you, and then they get it from you because they're getting tax breaks from when they're used, because they're giving you money. It's really kind. My personal opinion, it's shady, but that's just my opinion, But
Well, and that's, what they say is like, with the drugs, and they had all this like, protected by, what's the word I'm looking for, patents and whatnot. And so then it was always the thought of like, well, if they came out with a generic drug, well, it's like the generic came out and it peaked out like right at the top, of the prescription price. I think when the generic Copaxone came out, it came onto the market like $60,000-$70,000 a year. And I was like, and so it didn't drive prices down. And so you're just like,
so
It is
when you
hard.
get a generic drug, do you know who's manufacturing it? The majority of the time, it's the same drug company, but it's their generic company that's manufacturing it.
Yep.
And the first drug company that does a generic has sole of it for the first 6 months, and then everyone can do it. Like when Lipitor went generic, if you looked at generic pill and Lipitor, it had the exact same markings on it because it was essentially the same company, the parent company, and then the little generic company. They made the same.
Kind of like an outlet store, just like it's the same stuff. They just sell cheaper. It just looks cheaper because it's an outlet.
Yeah. So you usually get you get a little break when it first comes out generic, but you have to wait at least 6 more months to see if other companies will come in and manufacture it. I used to work in the pharmacy, that's why I know this stuff. Sorry.
That's a new perspective that we haven't had yet.
So I can tell you stories about greed and stuff all day long. It's sad. No,
And maybe I'm a Pollyanna or I have my head in the clouds, but I would hate to think that there is somebody out there that knows how to handle this miserable disease and they're hiding it from me because of greed. And again,
Well,
I'm a Pollyanna, but there are a million of us in the United States living with multiple sclerosis. We've got to be somebody's mother or daughter or wife. Somebody's going to stand up and say, yeah, if they have some sort of, I would like to believe that. I don't know if I'm being a Pollyanna.
No, I think you're right, but at the end of the day, who gets the funding for the stuff? It all used to get things from individual labs. So if you look back in like the 50s and 60s, everyone had the little labs, and now it's all peer review. Anything that's not outside the peer thought gets tossed aside, and outsider thought, and you don't get funded for it. So it's just the politics of it all is completely different. I think there's people that want to have a cure, but it took them a long time just to admit that there were more than 400,000 people that have MS in the U.S. because there's certain laws that if you're under 400,000, you're like considered like what's the word?
It's an orphan disease.
Yeah,
Orphan drug?
yeah. You get special breaks because it's considered like a rare disease. And it took them a long time for them to finally admit there's not 400,000 people with MS. It's a lot more.
Is it that it took a long time to admit, or it took a long time to get the research or the surveys or the data to prove that there were a million of us in the United States?
Well, you have to remember something. It wasn't the government or the industry that did the research to find the million people. It was the MS Society that did that whole study, not industry or the government. It was our MS Society that did that.
So pretty much we have to be the strongest advocates for ourselves.
Yes. And
Surprise, surprise.
the data's all there. I mean, if you just look at the billing codes for insurances, you'll have all your data there. Anyone that has MS, you'll have that code pop up. Your IC9, IC10 code. So the data's there. But I was just really shocked that it took a long time for them to finally like come out. Hey, it's more than 400,000 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just kind of hovered at 400,000. And it's just like,
For a really long time.
well, and then like, once you're diagnosed, then you find your cousin's brother, sister's nephew, and all these other people who have it. And just like, how did this happen? I mean, it's, yeah.
Yeah.
And we were going to talk about emotions tonight. And I think the number one emotion that all of us deal with is frustration and anger. And I mean, it's just,
Tell me about your frustration that was solved today, dear.
oh, I'm getting my next, holy cats, it took 3 months, but I'm getting my next Rituxan infusion on Thursday. So that got rid of my frustration.
Well, can I share it? Because okay, so if you're not gonna tell, I will, because it just seems silly because so we live in Mount Pleasant and Jennifer and my neurologist are down in Ann Arbor, and it's just like, so she takes the infusion and it's a lot easier because we can get the infusion here in Mount Pleasant, which is a U of M hospital affiliate. It took all this time for the back and forth between Ann Arbor and Mount Pleasant to get the facts, to get the paperwork. And it's not like this is the first time she's had the infusion done here in Mount Pleasant, but it was like the constant calling down to Ann Arbor. They said, oh, we faxed it. Call Mount Pleasant. We didn't get anything. Call Ann Arbor, just back and forth. And you're just thinking, if it was a different health system, maybe. But it's just like, how does this happen that you can't just, I told Jennifer, it's like, if I was there, I'd be like, I will call the person, say, fax it to me, and I will stand by the fax machine till I get it. But it's just like, and it doesn't happen that way. So then Jennifer calls again today, and it's just like, it's happening, but now it's happening 2 days from now. So then it's just like figuring out how am I going to work from there and doing, it's just, but it is frustrating because, okay, that's it.
Why are hospitals still using fax machines?
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what
Thank
Dan
you.
said.
Email.
Okay, for someone that's worked in the health field, this is one. First of all, the health field is the last place in the country that upgrades their technology. Number two, since it's so
You're the
old,
one getting
it's
all the
one of the
money from
most
pharmaceuticals.
it's one of the more secure ways to do it for like hacking and stuff like that. But yeah, it's
Okay.
insane. When I went to Mayo, I'm like, so can they just email you the records? Like, no, you need to fax them. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Like fax machine, who still uses that technology, if you want to call it that?
Excuse me. I was one of the people that installed the first fax machines in the United States.
Is
What
that
year was
right?
that?
That
What-
really, that's true.
What year was that?
1977.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So I remember them like late 80s, early 90s, but 1977, wow. That's been around for a long time.
Yeah, and they were, I mean, when I would go in to install one of them, it would take me 30 minutes to explain to people what a fax machine is. And then have to show them, I'm going to take this piece of paper and write on it and send it to Chicago. They're going to sign it and send it back to me. And it was like, no, you can't do that. And I'm going, well, watch. And, 2 minutes later, they had a signed document. They'd gone both ways. And it was like, wow, that's neat. But that just explains to you, some of us are old enough to be dinosaurs.
No.
They're
quick.
not a dinosaur, Frank.
Yeah.
one of my biggest frustrations, like your frustration you were mentioning, that had nothing to do with actually physical symptoms of MS, just dealing with the whole system of the medical system, was my husband and I, we got new insurance effective in the 1st, and it did not get uploaded and show in the system until the 14th.
Yeah.
Wow.
2 weeks. And I'm like, I told them, and when we had our meeting, I said, I have to know the information January 2nd, because I have to call the neurologist and immediately get this PA jumped on, for my Ocrevus. 2 weeks. That should be illegal. You should have, within 24 hours of being effective, you should be in the system. And that was just so frustrating for me. I'm like, how could you guys, like, I even went to the insurance, the people broker. What is going on here?
Mm.
But United Healthcare, I think they made 300 revenues of 300 billion last year. Like, how do you go up against that?
Yeah.
But I mean, what choice do we have? I mean, this is, so they don't have to be in a hurry. So what's
But
frustrating for you, Elizabeth?
They just need to get a cure like soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I've only been having it for a short time, but it's just getting really frustrating.
Yeah.
Yes.
that will be a normal emotion you will experience, I'm sad to say, but
I know.
you will learn how to cope and deal and process it.
That
But
is the new normal.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. I think Dan and I, when we were talking about this topic for tonight, our emotions, we can go from happy-go-lucky to completely, excuse my language, I can get completely pissed off and raging lunatic in the drop of a hat. And I'm like, oh my God, I've never been like this, but boy, don't cross me. And it's just like the little stupidest things will just totally infuriate me. And I don't know, I mean, I want to blame it on the MS. It's like my emotions have never been, and the same thing as Dan, so I can't say it's a
Oh,
woman
yeah.
thing.
No.
It's like I don't know. Do any of you feel like that with your emotions where you're just like drop of the hat?
Yeah, lately, like probably like a last month or something, I could cry at the drop of a hat. My husband goes, "What's wrong?" I don't know. So it's like I don't know. I
Yeah.
just
And you don't, I mean, because yeah, I mean, and it's not just a woman thing, okay? I can admit that, but it's just like I can just be there and just out of nowhere, I get so angry, and you just start you start just dropping F-bombs and this and that, and then it's like once it's out of your system, you're just like, and it turns Jennifer, it's like, I'm not really that mad. It just pissed me off, and you get it out, but you're just like, because I am just easygoing and stuff, but just boom, I'm just like, and just like you wonder, is it because we deal with so much on an hourly, minute by minute basis that it's just like you can't keep that facade up the whole time to say that, yeah, I've got this, and you're just like anger. So.
I think that's a fair assessment and a good reminder because I've been awfully short lately, but I've been trying to cut myself some slack because it is like my um I don't know, my grandmother passed away like through the holidays, and my mom and my uncle kind of got into an argument, and we were trying to explain to her it's because everything is so fresh, and everybody's so close, and there are so many decisions that are need to be made, and I feel like that's kind of one of those things that like that's like Frank said, our new normal. And so we have these things that are on our mind all the time or whatever, and so yeah, we're gonna be short, and hey, if we can blame MS for dropping F-bombs, I'm all for that.
that's what I do.
Yeah.
My question to you
There
all
are no other words.
is this one thing that MS has really affected me emotionally wise is I've noticed when I have a strong emotion, instead of being able to hold back and not go off the deep end, I go off. So one thing, I was never a crier before. I can't tell you how many times I break down in front of people I know, I don't know, and I'm like, I'm sorry, it's the MS. Give me 5 minutes. And it's makes you very vulnerable, and it can be very humiliating. But that's something that I can no longer hold back those strong emotions. Has anyone else
Who is that?
experienced
Who is
this?
that speaking?
Kim.
Oh, Kim. This is Mike. Have you heard of Nuedexa? Nuedexa. It's a drug, and I can't go to a movie falling when they play Walt Disney music at the beginning of the movie, or I just start crying uncontrollably, not uncontrollably, but weeping, watching TV commercials, and very inappropriate time. My emotions get the best of me. And then I saw this ad in one of the magazines, New Adenta. I'm looking it up right now. It was a drug that failed the heart had another purpose. I forget, swallowing or something. And they found out it works for people with brain injuries and helps them control their emotions. And it's worked like a charm for me. It saved my life, actually. I found a coupon for it for $30 a month. I'm still using it, and somehow my local pharmacy found out I'm with Express Scripts, and they bill them 20 something. I get it for $30 a month. Take 2 pills. It's really saved a lot of my French confidence and so on. It's embarrassing to be with a crowd of people you know, you don't know, and suddenly you get weepy and everyone's looking at you like you're crazy. And so, Kim, this could help for you. Could help with you.
Yeah, I talked to my neurologist about it a year or so ago, and I'm like, well, the indication is inappropriate, crying or laughing. I'm like, well, it's not really inappropriate because it is the emotion I'm experiencing at the time. It's not like I'm at a funeral and I'm like busting out laughing or something like that. But I'm just like, it's just like my extreme emotion. Just I can't stop it from.
You may want to give it a couple of months.
I'll talk to them about it, see what they say, but it's just something that's been so different for me.
Has it just recently started, Kim?
Oh no, this has been going on since I've had the MS, but it was very noticeable. Like this is something totally weird for me that I'm not. Prior to MS, I did not have this issue at all. Like right now, I don't know if I could have a retail job because when people are being really, really mean to you, I would probably just before I was like tough as nails, just like bring it, it'll just roll off the back.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, tell us the name of the store you work in, and we'll be sure to avoid it.
Oh, I don't anymore. I had to quit, so. Yeah.
Yeah. I just find the emotions. I'm with you, Kim, where it's Dan and I can be watching the evening news and they'll do that sweet story at the end, and he and I will both start laughing because we don't want to start crying, where you're just like, it's so sweet, and you look at each other, I'm not crying, you're crying. I mean, I just feel like my emotions are so close to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
My anger, my frustration, my sadness, and I'm with you, Kim, and Mike. I'll have to remember. What did you say that medication was?
Emotion. One for emotions is called Nuedexta. Nuedexta.
Thank you. Dan wrote that down for me. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, look it up. I'm looking at it right now on and it failed as a heart drug and it failed as a swallowing drug, but by happy accident, it seemed to work for people, well, not just MS, but AL, Parkinson's perhaps, that have some brain injury, brain something or other, and helps them control their emotions. It really, and it works for me. It doesn't work for everybody, from what I understand. It's no harm in trying it.
No. Well, when you talked about the Empira didn't work for me. I don't walk anymore, so of course it's not going to help me walk. But it did help my arm movements a little bit better. But then it eventually kind of slowed down helping me. But I think it's interesting, just like Dan takes beta-seron and I couldn't take beta-seron, it didn't work for me. That's why I think doctors have got their works cut out for them with how MS is different from every single one of us.
Right.
Well, and the beauty of, when we were diagnosed, there were 3 disease modifying therapies, and now there's like 16, 18, however many. Yeah, and you're just like, now it's just like we had 3 we could choose from, and now how many? And so how do you know which one will be best, and how do you get things started? And it's just like, I would be overwhelmed. Although there's always, if it's not working for you, there's hope in knowing that there's like 17 others you can try, whereas like back in the day, this one didn't work. I had 2 choices.
I will say this, especially for Elizabeth, since she is newbie to the MS world, that one of the ways that has helped me cope with this thing is I figured out one day, okay, if I had a choice between having what I call my extreme emotions or being a zombie and having no feeling or whatsoever, which one would I choose? I would pick having the extreme emotions because you're very easy to be relatable, understandable. So that was my silver lining with dealing with this was, well, it's better than like having no connection, no feeling with anyone or anything. I'm like, okay, I'll just be really super, oh my God, when I'm watching something.
Well,
And
I
just,
think none of the emotions anybody is like saying are really far-fetched or anything. They might be more extreme than what pre-MS diagnosis, but we are all human and emotions are like normal things to have. I don't know. I'm a very emotional person, always have been, always will be. So I know that it is more close to the surface now, but I feel kind of like you said, Kim, like I feel like I'm more authentic now, and that's just a bigger part of who I am.
Yeah.
We were watching a football game, and good luck this weekend, Frank, BTW,
Thank you very much.
with the Chiefs and all. Frank lives in Kansas, so, but we were reading something, and I found something on Richard Sherman, the DVAC for San Francisco, and it was a story about how he had paid off the debt of like all of the outstanding debt in these 2 school districts for all of the underprivileged kids who could no longer get school lunches because they were overdrawn or whatever. And he went, it was in San Francisco and up in Seattle where he used to play. And I started reading the story to Jennifer, and I couldn't get through like the first 2 sentences because I started crying. It's just like, I mean, because it's like Richard Sherman's not, on the field the nicest of guys, but it's just like, all of a sudden I seen these poor starving kids on the streets and stuff that don't get a paid meal and everything. And I had to give Jennifer the phone to read it herself because I could not read it. It was just like choking me up so bad. But it's just like, apparently I don't think I was always this way, but apparently I was, maybe.
Yeah. And I'm with you, Carly. It could be a lot worse. we're authentic, and yeah, I don't know, maybe because of the disease, it's pretty obvious that there's something wrong with me because of my wheelchair. So I feel like you can see that, but I don't want you to see my emotions. And when I get upset, I'm like, I want to keep that to myself. And I don't know if any of you feel that way, where it's just like, dang it, I used to be able to just keep that, like I didn't have to share it as much. I don't know. Could just be an age thing. I don't know.
I wear my heart on my sleeve all the time. I don't have any other function.
Yeah.
What I've learned for myself personally, that if I keep all these feelings of dealing with MS to myself, it is very toxic and it kind of does this imploding self internally on me. So I've learned I have to vent. I have to have that pressure valve, whether that's actually seeing a professional counselor, whether it's talking, whether journaling. But I've learned it is very bad for me to just, because I don't want to bother you with these emotions. I don't want to, because that was me for the longest time. Like, I don't want to bother other people with it. And then I found out with time, it's like that is not healthy. So I'm very open to people now. Like, I'm having a hard time. If you want me to talk, I can talk about it, but let you know, I might get emotional. But if you're willing, if you want to listen and you want me, then I will tell you. But I always give them a heads up, like, you know,
Like
and
a little warning.
yeah, a little warning, like I'll tell you about it, but I can get very emotional. I can start crying. So, I'm cool. And everyone I tell that, no one ever goes, oh, no, don't tell me. Like, oh, yeah, just go ahead and tell me. And they give me the permission to, like, sometimes I can hold it together. Sometimes I can't. And it's just, I don't know. Like, I don't know what you guys, if you like Brene Brown or not. I love her. But it's just like that moment where you have that vulnerability, and then that person allows you to be vulnerable and they give you that space, and then you have this like amazing connection. And I would say with MS, compared to, we're looking at the silver lining again, Elizabeth here, you know I think I connect with people better now because I allow myself to be vulnerable, because you can't connect with people if you don't allow yourself to be vulnerable, and MS puts me in that position whether I want to or not.
Yeah. I understand.
So then here we are. I mean, so we've talked about emotions and stuff, and you all like logged on tonight, hopped on board. I mean, what were you looking to talk about tonight, and what more can we say, or what can, because we're here, we threw out emotions, but I mean, we're here for the month. I mean, anything else weighing heavily on your minds, and like what you wanted to get out of this group tonight?
I just wanted to come in and check it out. I had no clue what to expect. I hope I didn't dominate too much. Just tell me to be quiet.
Oh,
I talk a lot, guys.
you did. You did.
So
Did we ever say, Kim, stop, let other people talk? No, we didn't. No.
but you can, and I would respect it.
Well, and we know, but no, you're fine. This is good. I mean, this is what we do. I mean, just to reach out, just to be able to connect. I mean, I think this is so cool. I mean, just here nationwide. I mean, Frank's in Kansas, Mike's in Arizona, right? Yeah, you're Arizona, right, Mike? Yeah,
Yes.
and a bunch of us Ganders and Kim back in Iowa. I mean, this is good.
Yeah.
I mean,
Frank,
just
where are you in Kansas?
I am in a small little town. You're going to love the name, Plainville, and
Okay.
it's in northwest Kansas.
Oh, wow.
It's about 200 miles from Wichita,
Okay. So okay.
halfway between Denver and Kansas City.
Okay.
And I'm loving it.
It takes a special person to love it in the middle of nowhere, Kansas. I'm
Well,
glad
wait,
you enjoy where you're at.
I lived for 35 years in Southern California. This is back home. I'm settled. This is where I know everybody. I can go out and everybody in town knows me. And you know, it's an easy life.
I think
That's
it's so
good.
important to be around family and friends, especially when you're dealing with this. I think it would be so much harder for me if I was completely isolated. I moved, so 3.5 years ago, I moved back to where my parents and my brother and I have relatives at, and my extended, my in-laws and stuff. And I think it's helpful to have that.
Where were you before, Kim?
I was in Sioux City, Iowa, which is northwest Iowa, for about 5 years, and then asking Frank those questions, I was in Kansas City for 5 years. So
Yeah.
Well, it's really been an interesting thing. After moving back here, I struck up a relationship with my high school girlfriend. And so, I mean, and that was 50 years ago. Okay. So, you know, it's a totally different thing than, you know, you would expect, but we knew each other. We know each other very well. And, you know, we're just having a good time with one another. And it's a friend, it's a companion.
That's good.
that's awesome. High five to you, Frank. That's awesome. I'm happy for
I
it. I'm
think
glad.
that's one of, if there is a good thing to say about multiple sclerosis, it puts your priorities in order. You don't sweat, you don't sweat the small stuff, and you know what's important. You know about your family, Kim or Frank. You reconnect with people from a long time ago, and it's just all the little things that, I don't know, you used to worry about, that you realize that stuff's not important.
Yeah, it's not important.
Yeah.
People spend too much time worrying about things,
Yeah.
worrying about things that never happen.
That is
Exactly.
true. We all tend to worry about things that haven't actually happened. The what if.
Yeah.
100%
My
Frank.
my grandfather used to say 90% of what you worry about doesn't happen anyway.
Exactly.
That was always a good silver lining.
90% what you worry about.
Well, my dad a couple weeks ago had gone in for heart surgery, had to have a valve replaced, and it's like the second time he had to go in for heart surgery and stuff. And talking to him on the weekend, and I'm like, Dad, are you nervous? Are you afraid? And he's just like, no. And Dad's being all faithful and stuff, but he's just like, well, Dan, your mom's doing enough worrying for the both of us. So it's just like, that mom was freaking out and stuff. But Dad's like, I got this. So yeah, you just like the stuff. But sometimes I think I always tell Jennifer, because she's like, are you nervous? And it's just like, you got to get nervous for a second, because everything will go fine. But if I wasn't worried about it, or wasn't nervous planning or making sure everything was in order, things wouldn't have gone as smoothly. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, I'm not trying to pick on you, I swear. Do you
That's fine.
have, since you're the new person that has MS, what questions, or is there anything you want to talk to us? Because like when you're first going through MS, it is just your world is upside down, and you don't know like where to grasp, and like we all have been seasoned with it for like 5 years or more. So is there anything that you want to ask us, or things that you just want to like, bounce off of us, or what you're experiencing? I'm just real curious what's going on in your world.
Well, in my research and stuff, I've basically seen that I should not be having sugar or alcohol or red meat. Are those like true things?
I feel bad. I'm not a medical professional, Elizabeth, but I feel bad because we had this meeting tonight, I didn't drink a beer. So if that gives any consolation, I don't. But again, there's all kinds of dietary things, and I think that's the big thing when you're newly diagnosed, is just finding out what works for you.
Yeah.
And read those, and be mindful, and get advice from medical professionals. But yeah,
I
I, yeah,
go
Yeah,
out
you
for
know
a
you
burger
better
and a
than me.
beer. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Well, and Elizabeth, I don't know if it might be helpful for you. I used to have a notebook when
Yeah.
I first got diagnosed, and I would literally track everything, including like the weather that day, because I have a hard time with like chronological timeline in my head, like doesn't exist.
Me too.
I remember a point in time and that thing that happened, but in chronological sequence, I can't place it. Um, but I would write down like the weather, what I ate that day. I am now dairy free. That is something that affects me, but it's not an everybody thing. I know when I have sugar, it's my symptoms feel a little bit worse, but just in like writing that down and like Frank was saying, being mindful of that sort of thing, it's, I found that helpful, and maybe just till you kind of like are recognizing what those things are, just something to pay attention to.
Yeah, I'll probably start doing that. I do have a notebook for since the beginning of my diagnosis, of all my appointments and everything. So
Mhm.
like if anybody came with me to my appointments, I always have them write stuff down because my handwriting is not readable now. So
Welcome to
Yeah.
the club.
we have everything like from what the doctors say and everything and all this other stuff and on dates and everything as to what went on.
Yeah.
One recommendation, since your question was about diet, Elizabeth, is one person I would steer you toward to maybe jump off your research. I don't know if you've heard of her. Her name is Terry Walls. Have you heard of
Okay.
her?
I
She,
have not.
okay, I'll tell you a little. Has anyone else in the group heard of her? Yes, no,
Well,
raise
yeah.
Okay, so Terry Walls is an MD at the University of Iowa. She's part of their med school. She has secondary progressive MS. At one point, she was in a reclined wheelchair, and through diets and other means, she was able to get out of her wheelchair, start walking, and ride a bike again. Now, she is doing a couple clinical trials. Actually, the MS Society gave her $1 million to do some clinical trials. She might be someone that you want to maybe research in, and she is trying to
Okay.
collect the data. I was in 2 of her trials. It did help me with my fatigue and certain things, but it's also really hard to maintain it, the type of food you're eating. But if
Okay.
that's something you're interested in modifying your diet, I would check her out and then kind of um, then fan out on your research. She would be a great
Yeah.
place to start.
And how do you spell her name?
Terry is Terry. Walls is Wahls. And she has a TED Talk. I think it was like 2001. It's a really old TED Talk. She has a TEDx talk. But if you just do, yeah,
Walls protocol.
Yeah, the
Wall
real
Protocol. She has a book. She has recipes. But it's essentially like a modified paleo diet. And then she's done research like is keto versus better paleo versus, the other diet I'm completely blanking on, the low fat diet from early 90s, early 1900s.
The swank diet.
Thank you. The swank diet was one of the ones that her trial was against, the swank versus so that, check that stuff out. There's a lot of
Okay.
stuff out there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was quiet.
So this is Rick. I've been posting stuff in the chat window for you along the way with some
Oh, yes.
names and things that we talked about, so you can always see them there. But I want to mention, just to go back briefly to the discussion about the drugs. We just had a 20-minute discussion in the group I moderated before, which was for men with advanced prostate cancer, a discussion on generic drugs. It was very similar to the discussion we had here, I have to tell you. And the concern about where these generics are manufactured and what the quality control is. and it arose out of a small discussion last week, and then one of my board members and my co-moderator, who is a retired research pharmacist, he put a post on our blog about a new book that just came out called Bottle of Lies by Catherine Eban. And if you scroll up on the chat window, you'll find a link to the blog and a lot more information and Len's thoughts, or you can go to our website, which is ancan.org, and you can look on the blog there and you'll find it maybe one or two posts down. But I felt like this was Groundhog Day when you guys started to talk about the drugs again. So
Well,
I'm just, yeah.
And full disclosure, Rick, Dan and I and Frank, will you be there? At
I will
public.
not. I'm not going to be there this year, apparently.
We're going to Public Policy Conference in Washington, D.C. in March to advocate and put, not that they need more faces with overpriced medication, but we're going to be there live, trying to get some attention to how expensive MS drugs are. So that's
No, good for you. One other thing that I wanted to mention for Elizabeth's benefit, and maybe the rest of you do this, but you can always record your meetings. You advise your doctor that your handwriting isn't good or whatever it is, and record your meetings on your phone. And then you can come back and you can play it back and you can listen. And when we navigate, doesn't matter what the condition is, we always recommend this. And if you've got a doctor who doesn't want you recording the meetings, they are not the right doctor. You've got to find a doctor and find somebody who does, because they don't have their priorities right. Interestingly enough, my best buddy just retired, but he was for the last 40 odd years, certainly 35 years, he was a breast cancer surgeon. And when I go back to England, I usually stay with him. And I asked him when I was back last time, I said, Mark, how do you feel about people recording? He says, I encourage it. I tell them. And there are other doctors too. I know one of our guys sees a doc at Memorial Sloan Kettering, and she reminds him to record the meeting. So it's a really good way for you, even if you have somebody with you, it's a good way, because some of the things that they tell you they really hit you emotionally, and you lose concentration on what they say in the next 2 or 3 minutes, and you suddenly come back into reality and you think, oh my gosh, I have no idea what the doctor just said. I'll just say yes, 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 yes. So it's a very good idea to record your calls. Does anybody do that in this group?
I don't, but I was going to say that reminded me, one of the things that I always try to do is have a couple of questions for my doctor, because when we get talking about something, then I'll forget the questions that I wanted to ask. So if I just write them down in my notes or something, even if it's just on your phone and typing them in or talking into your notes, that's usually helpful.
So Connie, I want to go one better than that. Because this is another thing that we encourage folks to do. Write down your questions. You don't really want to have more than 10. In fact, we strongly recommend you don't have more than 10, hopefully less. And write them out beforehand, and take a hard copy, 2 hard copies with you, one for yourself and one that you're going to hand to the doctor and also email the doctor on your portal. And there's a really good reason for this. As you well know, a lot of people feel they get rushed through their appointments and they can't get everything through. If you hand the doctor, a written list of your questions or a hard copy of the email that you sent your doctor, they are going to answer every question on that sheet because that piece of paper is required to go into your record. And they have concern, and then there's concern if they didn't answer something that they were asked. And this works. I can give you, I don't know how many people that you can get testimonials on this from, but if you write down the questions, you give a copy to your doctor, that doctor's going to answer all the questions on that sheet.
It's a good pointer.
Try it.
Good point.
Yeah, you like it. It works. It does work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking to you. I should put my video on whilst I'm not in the background. Yeah, no, I mean it really does work, and you know we run 18 groups now, 20 I think actually, and so we work with a lot of different people, and so we've developed these pointers over time, and they're good for doesn't matter what the chronic condition is you're living with.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Just
That
saying.
I bring her. I think just having somebody with me, because that was the best thing when she came with me, and just because you forget about the questions, even if I had them written down, she'll be like, what about this? What about that? So.
And vice versa. If I want to like say, oh, it's not that bad, then Dan will say, no, really it kind of is. Or, you know, somebody to kind of hold a mirror, like an honesty, like, no, you can't slough this off. Like you need to be honest with the doctor.
Yeah, Dan, I know how it is. We men just we tend to take everything, no big deal.
Exactly. Well, Frank, because I used to go to the neurologist by myself because I was like, there's no reason for Jennifer to go. It's all the way over in Midland. I'm not going to bother with it and stuff. But when we started going to see I started to see her neurologist down in Ann Arbor, and we're meeting, that's the first time she sat in on the meeting. And then she had said, like, are you going to ask her about the sleep? And I was like, oh yeah, maybe. And I was like, everything was done. And it's just like, and Jennifer's like, oh, were you gonna? And she started talking about the sleep thing, and you know, that was the best thing in the world, and brought me to tears because Dr. Braley explained why I was having these problems, and just like, okay, thanks, Jennifer, that worked well. So yeah, I think just to have somebody there that makes you, take care of yourself, really.
Mm-hmm. Do you
Has any
all?
Go ahead.
I'm just going to ask, do you take people with you to your appointments? Kim, do you take someone with you to your appointment?
I did ask my husband to go this Thursday because I've deteriorated so much in the 5 months, and I need his brain to like put it into words, because I know during my appointment I'm going to be crying, I'm going to be bawling, I'm going to be so he's going there. But like when I was at Mayo Clinic in August, I recorded my conversations with
Right.
him, and then I
Right.
also. And I don't know too, like we were talking about how everything's rushed. I don't know if anyone's had the Mayo Clinic experience. It's like an hour with your doctor with no distractions, no interruptions.
Wow.
It's the most amazing. You'll be like, you come out and you're like, why isn't healthcare like this?
Well, do write your questions down for Thursday, though, and give the doc a copy.
Oh yeah, there's going to be a lot of things I'm going to be bringing up. And I think that's the thing that drives me nuts is like, you have to be your own patient advocate. And
Yes.
you have to, just kind of be, oh, okay. You have to be like this. And
Yes.
you have to be kind of forceful sometimes and like, okay, getting back to this. This is my question.
Yes.
Okay, what do you think about this? So I don't have any problem doing that. The problem
Good
is,
girl.
and then I will actually, what I plan on doing too, because my MS brain, I will be handing him a copy of This is how I've changed in the last year. This is how I've changed in the last 5 months, and documenting everything down. So he can he'll glance at it during the meeting, but afterwards he can look at it. Or if there's any questions, it's and I'm just I just can't, because if you're gonna ask me 2 years down the road, I'll be like, I don't remember, But it's just very, because I'm still waiting for disability. They keep rejecting me, I'm young, I can walk, I can talk, I'm not gonna do it. So I have to keep showing having a problem with this. Yeah.
Yeah. So a coming soon ad is that we are actually designing, it'll probably go on a t-shirt and on a sweatshirt, an ANCAN sweatshirt that says, "You are your best advocate." So we endorse that message.
Absolutely.
And that's something I would absolutely love to do on a volunteer basis if I had enough energy, was to be a patient advocate for a lot of people that don't have the energy, the medical knowledge, you know what I mean? Because I've been in the medical field and it's overwhelming for me. And you're going to go with someone whose brain, they might have had a stroke, and you're expecting them to navigate through the insurance. I mean, it's ridiculous and I would really love to be able to go, okay, you can't do this. Let me help you out. But it's a huge problem. And I think that's one area in our whole healthcare system as a whole we're failing at, because a lot of people, I love about Mayo Clinic is that you have your main doctor and they're checking off the boxes, did everything get done? And a lot of other clinics, you have to go wait, and I don't know about you guys, but it freaks me out. I can go to Mayo Clinic, I can get an MRI that morning, and afternoon I see the doctor, boom, the results are there. None of this waiting for weeks. What's your brain look like? I don't know. It's amazing. But not everyone can go there. It's covered by my insurance. It's actually cheaper, if you believe this. It's actually cheaper for me to go to Mayo than here. Mayo will charge less than what local stuff will charge here for the same stuff.
Wow. That's interesting. That's very interesting. So, and they have a very good MS group, a good specialty MS neurology group.
Oh yes. Like the guy that diagnosed me in 2012, there's a big, it's not an app, I forget what you call it, database. It's called UpToDate. Are you familiar with that? No, okay. It's what doctors and hospitals use when you take a disease state. It tells you all the stuff about the disease state. It's like a Medline or Mayo Clinic in real time. So they add in. So it's like the second or third down the reference was my neurologist that diagnosed me. He was his first name on that paper.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm just like, Wineshank, are you kidding me? And I'm just like, all right, I'm in the right place. But yeah, the way I was treated at Mayo Clinic in their neurology and their MS specialty department versus in Sioux City when there was no MS specialty person, what they do now, night and day. I feel so bad for the people, anyone experiencing, what's wrong with me, and they look at you, because I was at one point, they looked at me and they go, they didn't say it, but you could tell by how they looked at me. They're like, it's all in your head. It's like, I am not crazy. It's not in my head. Something is going on. And then I go to Mayo, and Mayo's like, oh no, you have the lesion here. Well, duh, you have these, duh, you're having this, experience because of this. I'm like, thank you for giving me objective data for my subjective complaints. I don't know if anyone else has experienced that, where they look at you like, no, you're just crazy.
We should answer that question, but I just wanted to tell Mike Pettipour, Mike, I do keep pushing to find you a new urologist. There doesn't seem to be anybody, but interestingly, my buddy Steve said to me the place to go would be to Mayo in Phoenix. So it sounds like Mayo is well up on this.
Surprisingly, Rick, I called the University of Arizona Medical Center, and my neurologist retired, and they set me up with this nurse practitioner for sometime in May, I believe. And I talked with someone else who told me that actually I don't have an acute symptom or anything right now, so no real need to see a MS neurologist. But they told me that the nurse practitioners in this field probably know more about what's going on than the neurologists. Since there aren't many neurologists that know a heck of a lot about MS, that perhaps a nurse practitioner is more up on current things. So I think I'm comfortable giving her him or her, whatever it is, a shot later this spring, and I'll let you know my feelings when I get done with that thing.
What do you guys? What do the rest of you think about that? What's your input for Mike on that?
Did you say neurologist or urologist?
Neurologist.
Neurologist.
A neurologist with a specialty in multiple sclerosis, or doesn't have to be a specialty, at least some knowledge of multiple sclerosis.
Yeah.
In Tucson, Arizona, are few and far between. And neurologist just retired. He was 90, and he taught my other neurologist.
Okay, that's right.
They're all gone. A nurse practitioner at the University Medical Center, big place, and I'm comfortable now. At first, I didn't want to see her. Now I'm more confident. So I'll check it out and then let everybody know what I thought of the experience.
Yeah. What about you, Elizabeth? Do you see an MS specialist or do you see a general neurologist?
I have a nurse practitioner that first diagnosed me. She sent me to a neurologist in Owasso, and I've been seeing her ever since.
Okay.
And I love her because she takes a lot of time, and my mom went with me to some appointments there, and my mom fell in love with her because when she walked in the room, Dr. Cody is her name. She walked in the room and she hopped up on and sat on the counter, and she acted like she was here for me, and she has all the time in the world for me. So I really like her.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say for Mike, just check this nurse practitioner out and see what you think. I think one of the most one of the doctors I respected the most is after I got diagnosed, I went to my primary care physician going, "Hey, Mayo wants to start me on Rebif. You chill with that?" And he's like, "I will start you on it, but I don't know enough about it, so you need to get a neurologist on board." And I said, total respect. I love the fact that he said, "I'm out of my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start you, but I need you someone who's going to keep tabs on it." And I would thought that was, I mean, and it depends on how she makes you feel. Do you feel like Elizabeth, where like, my God, this person gives me all the time in the world. I can talk to this person versus yes, no, bye. We're like, I didn't get 5 words out.
I've heard about the Mayo Clinic experience, and that's certainly a treat, but few and between, and most of us don't have that same level of Elizabeth does, but we make do with the best as best we can. Yes, neurologists who you're comfortable with and can tell. I have no issues with telling how I feel inside, or emotionally, or physically.
And my MS neurologist here in Des Moines, every other appointment is first is with the MD, next appointment is with the nurse practitioner, then back to him. So they flip flop, and I really like the nurse practitioner better, honestly. I think the interaction is better. But I've also never had a practitioner in my life at the end of the session go, "Can I give you a hug?" Yes, I would love a hug. I've never had anyone do that before except that nurse practitioner. I absolutely adore her.
Nice.
Well, that's something for all of us to remember when we meet you.
Oh, I love hugs. I'm a hugger. I don't. Going to Washington D.C. sounds really fun. If I had the funds and the time for the recovery, I would go there and like yap my jaw all day. Like, yeah, sure, I'll harass you. I'll tell you $250,000 for my drug. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
That's what we're hoping. We're hoping always to
Always.
advocate and just, there will be about 300 of us. So power in numbers, right, Frank?
There you go.
Have you heard of all the people that have died, especially people who are diabetic, because they had to parcel out their insulin doses? Or that's, I'm sorry, that should not be happening in a first world country. My
No.
personal opinion.
Especially,
No.
it is.
Yeah.
It's just wrong.
It is.
It-
And yeah.
And I'm very hyper right now with the whole, like I said, the caucuses are happening Monday. I've been very politically disengaged until this time. And so I'm just all very about like pro this and change this. And so,
Yeah, it's like happening right there, man.
it
Wow.
is like literally. So Drake University is where a lot of the people, like the last debate was at Drake. That's pretty close to my house. I don't live very far around down there from there. So yes, it's literally like, I don't know, maybe 10 streets away, not very far.
Wow. Wow.
Well, guys, I don't know about y'all, but I gotta be up at 5, so I'm gonna have to sign off. I'm fading fast.
When is our next meeting? Let's get that down so y'all can put it in your calendar. Let me get my phone.
The 25th, because I just looked, the 25th of February, the fourth Tuesday in February. And if along the way you find anybody else that you would like to us to send an advice to, a reminder to, just either send them to our website, ancan.org, or send me info@ancan.org. You can send me their email and we'll make sure that it gets on the list.
Yes.
And we hope that both the new people, when I say new people, not new MS people, at least one not new MS person, found the group helpful and it was a worthwhile use of your time. We think it is.
Yeah, well, it's good to see you again, Elizabeth. Good to see you, Carly. Good to meet you, Kim. Good to see you, Frank. Good to talk with you, Mike. This is awesome.
And Elizabeth.
This is Mike. In February 25th is Mardi Gras that night, so you guys have I'll be thinking of you, and I will drink because I always drop alcohol during Lent. It's my last thing to have a drink, so I won't be with you on February 25th. I'll catch up in March. Look forward to it.
Very
Sounds
much.
like a plan.
Mike, well then, okay, well, Rick, how about then in meeting announcements, this Mardi Gras theme, and just put a BYOB on that? And
okay, we do it in for the next meeting, okay? Everybody needs to have a bottle on the table.
Fat Tuesday.
And everybody wear beads.
Okay.
Nothing but the beads.
That's right. Okay.
The
All
first
right.
thing that
I will be sending the link to this meeting to the Digmans, and they will post it. It is on our YouTube channel, Cancer Foundation's YouTube channel. So if you want to listen again, you can do that, or you can send anybody else there. That's one way of figuring out what the groups are like before you join us. I hope we don't scare anybody off. I don't know.
Is
Anyway,
it just an audio recording, Richard, or is it actual, like you see our face, our mugshots too?
you do. If you show your icon, if you show your video icon, they see your video icon on the recording. If you
Okay.
don't want to be seen, you can't show your video.
Okay.
But that's a
Got
nice hack.
I'm always cold. I'm always freezing.
That's why I
If
have
you
my
see me in the summer, I'm probably wearing a hat, y'all. Just let you know.
Okay. Okay. All right. Good night,
All right.
everybody.
Good night.
Good
Have a nice
Bye.
night. Nice talking
Good
with
to see
you.
ya.
Good night.
Bye.
Good
Night.
night.